This is Rowdy with Stoneface Kennels, and today we're going to talk about making and using a pigeon hobble. A lot of people talk about pigeon hobbles, a lot of people use and utilize pigeon hobbles, but I haven't been able to find any videos that really show, the method or show how to use them. So to make a pigeon hobble, you need three things. You need a bird, obviously. To use the pigeon hobble, you need some line here. This is just some nylon cord, and so you can see I have a good bit of it. You want a lot so the bird can get a good lead, and it actually adds some action to the flush, so that way the dog doesn't, it just doesn't come up out of the launcher up off the ground and then flutter right back down. You want to simulate a flush. You want the bird to be able to fly a little bit, simulating an actual bird hunting situation, and then flutter to the ground. And then the last thing you need is a section of hose. Now, another alternative to this, a wonderful alternative, is a piece of PVC pipe. You could take a piece of PVC pipe to make a hobble out of, just the same exact way we're going to show you here, but the PVC pipe, if you have an end cap, you can fill it with sand or dirt. And what you can do is, if you're working with smaller birds, you use less dirt. If you're working with stronger birds, you use more dirt. Now, I mean, I really don't go through all much hassle. You put in enough dirt, it's kind of like a one-size-fit-all sort of thing. But a section of garden hose, I like a real long section of garden hose, and it seems to work better. Give the bird a lot of line, and when at the end they flutter to the ground, they don't drag it and get tangled in a tree somewhere. When you use a pigeon hobble, you want to make sure you're not around power lines, you're not around the trees, you're not around someplace where a bird can get tangled up very easily. We're back, and we're gonna be putting together our pigeon hobble now. The first thing I'd like to talk about is that what I did was take an end of this string and I cut it off. You can see here it's about maybe 18 inches long from tip to tip. Okay, and I cut that off, and I'll show you why here in a minute, but about 18 inches long, somewhere in that area. Then you take the end of your hose or your weight object, and it's important not to have it too heavy. If you have it too heavy, then the birds will hit the end, and they'll just boom, they just stop. And I mean, when that happens, they can dislocate legs, they can even pull legs off. Then you'll have some pretty poor training birds. So, and if, like I said, if it's too light, then they end up in trees or barbed wire fences or power lines or whatever. So it's nice to have a nice open field, like you can see out here beyond the training equipment out there where Moxie's running around. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to punch. I've already punched these holes, but you can see I just punch a hole right there and then a hole on the opposite side. Then you take and you lay line across the hole and take an object. I take a pin, run it in, and run it through the second side. This can take a few times. I mean, it can take a few tries, but once you have it down, it gets easier and easier, and it really doesn't take all that long. Alright, so we've put it through. Now all you do is you tie it off. So I'll probably just do a overhand knot like this, just to make it uncomplicated. Just a basic, make a loop there. And then I take my other end that's going through, and I'll put it back through. Just an overhand knot. Nothing fancy, nothing special. And now you can see we have it anchored. So now the weight is fixed to the line. Now what I'll do is I'll take the other end of this line that's about, I don't know, maybe 20 feet, 15 to 20 foot. I'll take this and I'll make another overhand loop knot. Okay, so that's what we have, another loop. Then I'm going to take this small line I have, this small one that I cut off the end, this 15 to 18 inch, and I'm going to attach that to the long line. Now how I'm going to do this is I actually double it over so the ends are same length. Find the bottom of it, then make another overhand loop. Okay, so that's what we have. Now I'm going to take this 15 to 18 inch piece, and I'm going to take this 15 to 20 foot piece, and I'm just going to run it through. See, run it through. Feed it back through. Okay, and now I've connected it. So you can see this is the 15 to 20 foot line. It connects, then it goes off and it splits, and then you have the one end and the two end. This is the 15 to 18 inch line. Then you take the ends here and you double them over. When you double these over, just the same thing we've been doing. Another overhand loop. Oh, what'd I do? I messed something up. Alright, let's try it again. Another overhand loop. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with this other one. Double it over. Oh. Make a loop. So now you can see we have two loops. Okay, one's a little bit longer than the other, and I'm gonna make them even. See, I don't like them to be uneven like this, but I'm gonna go away from the camera, and this one right here, I'm gonna untie it, and try to tie it up so it's the same length as this one. That way, these are actually gonna go around the pigeon's feet. Okay, and then when the pigeon hits the end of the line, he hits the end of the line, and the weight pulls him back, so he flutters to the ground. And I like to have these. I like to have two of them because it distributes the I guess you could say the impact, the strain from whenever the weight hits, distributes it between two legs and not just one leg. You know, I try as hard as I can not to injure the pigeons. It's bad practice because you'll end up with horrible training birds. You know, you'll end up with training birds that they can't fly very well. They're weak. They're injured. They're just not very strong. So it's important to have these. You know, it looks a little complicated, I'm sure, to some people, but basically the basic of it is you have a weight, you have a section of line. At the end of the line, you have some place to hook to the bird. That's basically it. So I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to come back and show you guys how we put it on the bird, and then we'll talk about launch. Alright, we're back again, and you can see I've gotten these, see if I can, pretty straight. So you see they're even, so that way whenever the bird hits the end, the legs are going to be evenly distributed. It's not like the legs are going to be like this. They're both going to hit at the same time, absorb the same amount of pressure. So what you do with each of these is you're going to take it, I'm going to show you, you're going to take it and you're just going to double it over on itself, okay? And when you double it over on itself, you come up with a little loop, see? Come up with a loop. That's where you put the pigeon's leg in at, okay? Right here. It's nice to have a longer loop to start with, because it's hard sometimes to get a pigeon's foot into a little loop like this. But by the same time, I've had in the past, I don't know if it's just me or not, but in the past I've had trouble with these coming undone. And I like that stopper knot up close because it stops this, you know, if it's around the pigeon's leg, it stops it from going way down, the pigeon from slipping out. So I do kind of like that. So let me get a pigeon now and we'll see if we can't get him fixed up. Alright, here's our pigeon, and for convenience purposes, I've got his head tucked under his wing, trying to make this a little easier. He's not really asleep right now, but that's okay. Anyway, what we're going to do is take this line here, this hobble, and we're going to slip it over this foot. It's nice to have two people to do this too. It can be a hassle sometimes, but you can see, slips right on. Now it's slipped onto his foot there, and see, now we'll try the other one. Just like that. That's exactly how it'll go on his foot. Okay, so we'll take the other foot. Okay, got his foot right there. This guy. Like I said, this is a whole lot easier with two people, especially if you've got the short loops. So now we have that on there. Tighten it up. You can see it works just fine. Okay, so now both of his legs are hobbled. When he gets into that line, he'll go to the weight. See? Got him basically on a leash. He can't go anywhere. So we'll be back in a minute, and I'm going to load him up, and we're going to see if we can't launch this bird and show you guys how it all works. All right, we're back again, and this is the launcher I'm going to be using. It's a dog tree launcher. It's the QL, I believe, the quail and pigeon launcher. But the way I work this is I always put the beeper back here. I always put it to the back. And I just do that just so whenever, as a rule of thumb, so whenever I'm in the field, if the wind changes direction or a dog points from a certain way and I want the bird to flush a certain way, I don't have to pick up the launcher and look in there and see which way the bird's facing. I automatically know the bird's facing that way, so I can kind of dictate which way the bird's going to flush. Anyway, the way this works is you take the bird, and this is how I do it, and these are the key points that I find to be very important. When you put the bird in, I don't put the bird to sleep to put him in. I have him awake. That way, you know, he has his head about himself whenever he's ready to flush. And I want him to be able to take the flight and take off pretty quick, so the dogs don't catch him. If I'm not using a hobble, if I am using a hobble, I'm not so freaked out about it. But I don't put him to sleep in the launcher. Anyway, the way this works is take him. You just put him in the launcher here. Close it up around him. Oh, don't get away, bird. It's kind of hard to do it at this angle, reaching around the camera like this. But anyway, flip it over here. See? This shifts forward. And then what I do is I take this lock every time and I put it in this hole here, and that locks this lever. See, it can't go past here, because the way it works is whenever you push the remote actually takes this arm and moves this arm this way. When it does that, that lets this go. That brings these up, and the arm, this cradle right here expands, boom, like that, and the expansion throws the bird up in the air, and that's what launches the bird. Anyhow, okay, and when I have the bird in there. Whenever I have him set and everything, I mark it. It's very important to set the hobble a certain way, because you do not want the bird to get tangled up as you're going. So the first very important point is to make sure that you don't just tangle all the line up and just throw it down in a big wad, because sometimes it'll get tangled up, and before you know it, a 20-foot line that's tangled can wind up being shortened up to a 5-foot line, and that's not really what you're going for. So you want to make sure it's good and around. Sometimes I'll just lay it in a big circle, and then what I'll do is I'll start it off this way, run it off to the back about 5 or 7 feet, and then after I have it off to the back, I circle it around and I put the hobble in front of the bird, because I have the bird's position, so he's going to be flying forward and preferably towards the coop. So then I'll set the hobble actually in front. That way, whenever it expands, throws the bird up in the air and the bird takes off, he pulls the line from behind him, and the hobble doesn't get caught in the trap. The line is not going to get caught in the trap, and everything's going to be just... So here we are with the actual setup. Okay, you have the launcher in the top left-hand side of the screen, and the actual hobble, the weight, at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. This is how usually I would have it set up, except obviously we're out here in the open, and this isn't hard to see. Your dog will start sight point. So make sure if you use a launcher, you see all these objectives I have out here. I have a fence line right there and a tree line. I have fence lines and tree lines over here. So I have plenty of places to hide this, but for demonstration purposes, we're going to keep it in the open. Something else to note is that hobble there. If you have the launcher hidden, but the hobble's open and the hobble's visible and the hobble is noticeable, well then when your dog goes on point, after he points that bird so many times with the hobble right there, he's going to think that one means the other. And if he's out in the field and he happens to run across the hobble, even if he doesn't smell the bird or see the bird, he'll stop and point just because that hobble's there, and he thinks that means the bird's there. So it's a good idea not to overdo it with the hobble. Okay, it's good in some respects, but it's really, really bad in other respects. It's just like pointing a wing. Anyway, you can see here I have the launcher set up, and it's pointed where you can see right there, this end of it, that the bird is pointed, his head is right there. So he is pointed kindly towards me. And you can see the yellow line wraps out of the back. Okay, that way whenever it launches, he won't get caught up. Okay, and you can see right there it comes down. You can see the line right there. Okay, so kind of a big semicircle comes down, and I have the hobble sitting out there. So you can see I put it in a big semicircle. That way when the bird goes, he doesn't get anything wrapped up and tangled in the launcher. Okay, I moved back a little way so we can see. There's the launcher right there. Here is the hobble. Okay. Now, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. See him take off, and down he goes. Oh, still going, see? And he just sits down, easy as that. That's all there is to it. And the hobble is right there. You can see the hobble went from to there, from up there on the hill. That's a little farther than some trainers want, but it's exactly about how I like it. I like the bird to have some flight to him, so it's a lot like a regular bird, a wild bird, but I can go catch him afterwards and I can put him back. It's just a little more walking, nothing bad. But so from on top of the hill there to over here. Anyway, there it is. Talk to you later. If you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything, please post them. I'm running out of ideas here, and anything would be very much appreciated. Please comment. Let me know if I'm doing something right, if I'm doing something wrong, if you would prefer something different, more of something, less of something. Anything you guys can tell me, any feedback you can give me is very much appreciated. I'm trying to help people out. I wish whenever I would have gotten involved, people would have helped me out, and that's just what I'm trying to do, is just kind of spread around the wealth and experience and knowledge that I have. So if anybody has any requests, comments, critiques, or requests, let me know. Have a wonderful day.